What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jade, and I believe we had some technical difficulties coming on this afternoon, but we have finally made it. I'm joined as always by my good friend and collaborator, Simon Anderson. Simon, tell us how it is.
Yeah, well, it's been a bit technically difficult, to say the least, but it's good to be here live in action and talking with you, mate. So yeah, I'm ready to say a lot, but not much at the same time, you know.
It has certainly been a week of ups and downs. There has been a lot going on, particularly for the disability community. We'll get to that a little bit later. But as we always start the podcast, I do have a question of the week. Simon, are you ready, mate?
Hit me.
All right. And remember, guys, this is a question for the people at home as well. So if you have feelings or opinions about this, you're more than welcome to share. We do quite actively read the chat. So the question of the day is, have you ever had your mind changed by someone else? Have you ever had your mind changed by someone else?
Yeah, well, sure, I'll dive into it. That's a great question. Both. What's the word? Uh, Not artificial is the right word. Well, what's the word? The word I'm looking for is something that's not of much meaning. Not artificial.
Superficial.
Superficial is the word. Yes, on a
Not
superficial
bad for a
level.
black dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So on a superficial level, thank you for the help there. Yeah, I've had my mind changed heaps. You know, like someone, for I want the blue thing. Someone says, "No, man, the green thing looks way cooler." Okay, I'll get the green thing. But then on like a macro level, also I've had my mind altered by both people in real life and then people online or um, in history that have been important. Who I have learned from. People have definitely altered my mind or changed my mind. What do you
Cool.
reckon?
Yeah. So, Simon, first up, we're going to do a bit of a recap on last week because we had some
Yes.
interesting developments right off the back of one of your stories.
Oh man, it was like not even a whole day later, and some of the stuff was like later that night. I found that were articles related to the story. Man, it's just I didn't think things would move that quickly. It was unfortunate that the timing wasn't better so that we could talk about those articles, but gives us the opportunity to follow up here and just kind of reiterate what's kind of going on.
So you happy for me to move there now? I've got the
Yeah,
scenes all
yeah,
racked up for you, mate. Yep, no
yeah.
worries.
Let's just get straight into it.
All right.
Yeah. So just to recap, we were talking about the terrorist incident that happened at the mall. Jade kind of recounted his version of his live reenaction of the event from Ground Zero, and we were kind of talking about the the fact that when these sort of events happen, governments really like to use the opportunity to legitimize power grabs through legislation. And this article kind of was, what does it say? Um, yeah, I think this was like the next day, I think, but judging by that date. But
6th of September.
yeah, yeah, there you go. That's it, 6 days ago, so it was the day after.
Yep.
Um, and it just talks about how the government has counter-terrorism laws that they'd been working through government already, and now it's a perfect opportunity to bring them back into the news cycle, get them some extra public support, and also they're trying to use this angle of urgency. Nothing about this incident creates any more level of urgency, and if it does, I'd like to see like an ounce of proof of that. Like, just because this one individual person who was like we were talking about was suffering from severe mental stress and wasn't just purely motivated by ideological intent. Now they want to use um, his violence as extra evidence that these extra rules are important and necessary.
There are some
I
parallels here as well, Simon, and like I don't want to go down too many tinfoil hat rabbit holes, of course, but we copped a little bit of flack for going into level 4 lockdown, which is New Zealand's version of total lockdown,
mm-hmm,
over one COVID case. Now, I see the arguments both ways. For one thing, we are seeing a reduction of cases, though that's also arguable with sustained around 20 cases. I know it's been longer than that. I do read the news. Um, so I'm a little bit worried about our strategy in terms of Delta because something's not working, and then to hype up counterterrorism laws because of one dude, yeah, strikes me as perhaps an overreaction.
mm-hmm, yep, quite the overreaction. And I mean, so much of the detail in this case is so weird. Like it seems like the perfect concoction of the wrong action, like people just being really bad at their job or just being willfully neglectful. And like a lot of people in a lot of positions in the government have interacted, or in the state machine, I guess you could widen it, have interacted with this fella through surveillance, through police, through the courts. But this guy has been in so many different court settings, held in prisons. He was being held in prison. It was like 5 times longer than the max sentence he could ever get for the charges he had on him. And they were just doing everything they could to try and keep him in jail for as long as possible, and just I guess ruin his life because they didn't. I don't know. They just didn't find a way. They didn't want to find a way to return him to a healthy, functioning citizen. Like, I don't want to jump straight into the next article already, but just the next topic to talk about, it clearly highlights the fact that there was a lot of people that dropped the ball, and I
Oh,
don't want to. And I don't want a situation where it's clear there's been government failure to be the standard and example and excuse for widening um, state powers. Like, why use an example of you being an absolute piece of shit to say, hey, look, we did our job terribly, but if we would had these really cool laws with extra power, then we'd do our job better.
Yeah.
That's really stupid logic.
And we need to completely dominate and know everything about you to keep you safe.
Mm,
Completely overriding any concept of, what's that word again? Freedom?
yeah. So, like the detail in that article talks about the extra powers that they want, and one part of it is talking about intent and planning a terrorist event being the crime, and that's very close to like Minority Report level state discipline. Like, I understand that it would be nice to be able to have hard evidence of someone wanting to plan a terrorist attack and say, this is enough. We think he's got enough ability to do some harm and bring him in. But I'm fairly certain that's possible with the laws we have now. That if there was actual physical evidence of someone planning a terrorist event, you could get them with criminal charges. Like, they just had him with possession of explicit material, and it wasn't. It was he had shared journalist videos that had banned content in it, and so like it's just yeah, I don't know how to just sum it up, but
You said to me last week that you were of the opinion that possessing something doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. And now that I've had sort of 7 days to mull it over, I tend to agree with you. Like, what if you're a law abiding, upstanding citizen that just has the means in terms of money and the knowledge to build something like, I don't know if I can say it, but a device that could cause harm, and you're building it because you want to be a leader in the innovation of how to stop them. Maybe your parent or family member was affected by a roadside device in your country or something like that. What there is that line for me. I think it is possible for someone to possess bad things, not for bad reasons.
yeah, that's right. The whole guns don't kill people, people with guns kill people
Well,
argument.
that's exactly it. And I'm sitting here like,
Mm,
the my opinion on all of this. I mean, I realize you've got other articles, but we're not America, like, and we shouldn't act like it. We're surrounded by water. New Zealand is heavily documented as a country that only really gets involved from the humanitarian aspect. And we do have SAS soldiers that do targeted extractions and things like that. Those are the things we're aware of. Obviously, we can't speak to
yeah,
what. Sorry.
I was gonna say my good friend um was a cook at the SAS base out in South Auckland, and so he was in the because the SAS have a base within the base at Papakura. So there's a military base there, and then within there's a smaller compound that's like extra level security. And there's he said there's a painting on in the mess hall there from it's a real famous SAS story because this is like it was like a hotel extraction. Um it was so there's like a one of their teammates that died in this mission. His blood like splattered on one of the paintings in this hotel they were um, fighting in, and so they took the painting.
Wow,
Mm,
that's deep.
mm. He's got some stories about that he's heard from them
I
about
can't,
some
I can't
interesting
imagine.
missions. Yeah.
A lot of that would be classified, but
Yes.
to my knowledge, we only get involved in very targeted extraction missions and also peacekeeping. So, but
Well, I mean, there was that. There's the book that Nikki Hager wrote. I can't remember the name of the mission that the book's written after. Um, but that was when there was a whole bunch of civilian casualties in some mission in a mountain town, and there was a supposed cover up of their deaths, and that was a pretty black mark on New Zealand's military history, but nothing like what happens with the United States. I mean, they've got military staff on record calling civilian collateral damage from drone strikes bug splatter. Like, I mean, if that ain't great work culture, I don't know what is.
I was not aware of that. So, you're kind of blowing my mind here, Simon. Bug splatter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it doesn't reflect every single service member. I can imagine he's probably not the only person, or they were not the only person who had similar views and perspectives on the people that they were um, not at war with. I don't want to say at war with, but inflicting violence on.
I just don't think counterterrorism is something we should highlight too much because I mean, if the government brings attention to it, then terrorists, like genuine ones, are getting attention. It's kind of that
Mm,
chicken and egg scenario. You see what I mean?
yeah.
Because before I met you, Simon, I used to think that New Zealand was quite a free country. Every single week that we do this content now, I'm thinking, maybe we're not. But
No, I
that's not your fault though.
no, I speculate highly that post I think just from Helen Clark onwards, it's just been an inch by inch, day by day, succession to China. Like every year, every new prime minister, there's a new deal, or the deal gets tweaked, where we borrow more of their money, they take over more of our infrastructure, take more of our resources, and grow their influence in the Pacific. Like, um, yeah, New Zealand ain't yet some small, faraway place hidden from global politics. I think it's quite a key piece.
Oh, how naive I was. In sticking with the concept of counterterrorism, you've got another story for us, Simon.
Yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I think it follows on nicely what we were talking about.
going back to the Newland situation that you recapped
Yeah,
on earlier.
yeah. So what I was talking about with them using this example or this incident as a reason to rush these, excuse me, counterterrorism laws through. This was clearly an example of a community willing to put the time and resources and effort in place to de-escalate someone with radical religious beliefs and help this person transition into a more moderate, loving, uh, faith practicing person, and remove that radicalism. But what happened is the people that were representing the state only wanted to give him zero support so they could have zero accountability and focus on 100% surveillance. It's a very punitive approach to a criminal and an individual. So, to kind of summarize the stuff that's in this article, there is the New Zealand Muslims Association, the NZMA, which is at the top there. They were in talks with the corrections facility. They had sent one of their imams in. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, imam, or, but they sent one of their religious leaders into the corrections facility, met this individual a couple times, were in communication with corrections, and they had a plan to rehabilitate and support this person with obviously meaningful activities to spend their time because they had the resources to give them work. even if it's based around the mosque. But a proper facility with lots of resources, specialists who deal with the escalation of radical religious people, and just a better opportunity at becoming a more better rounded individual. But what they wanted to do was to put a plan in place that held corrections partly or accountable in some way, so that they could lean on the corrections facility for extra resource, I guess, if it was required, and to at least work in partnership so that they weren't just throwing them out into the street and corrections had nothing to do with them. That's all they wanted, was at least, if you can think about it rationally, they probably just wanted acknowledgement from the government to say, yep, it's all good, we agree with the plan. If things go wrong, we can step in to help. I'm assuming that Muslim Association was probably quite committed to wanting to rehabilitate this person, because they want everybody who's a Muslim to be loving of everybody and not, a hate-filled martyr. And so the corrections basically said, no, we don't want. Oh, they didn't even say that. They just broke contact. They stopped contacting the Muslim organization, and they contacted a small, tiny mosque that was renting a facility in where, like, Glen Eden or something. What does it say? I can't find it in the article. Oh yeah, Glen Eden's Masjid al-Balil had limited resources compared to the NZMA. And there's a quote from the NZMA: "We're a large organization. We have skills, capabilities, people, and resources to support something like this, but we wanted to make sure it's done properly. I have no idea how on earth they managed to talk this small Islamic center, who were basically renting a property, to take him on board. They set this kid up for failure.
Yeah.
They really did. There is no way for anybody to look at that situation and say, oh, well, maybe they just saw that this organization could actually help this person." Like, there's no way a regular person wouldn't just say, oh yeah, sure, go to this well-supported, well-resourced mosque so that you can have the best chance.
Just so you know, Simon, we've got Rachel in the chat.
What's up, Rachel? Hello.
So Rachel was finding this talk very interesting. I would suspect that a lot of people at home would not fully understand what you're bringing to light, Simon. I'm so quiet this episode because I'm still mind blown from the episode before. Like a lot of this is really difficult for me to take in, because I always hear the narrative that New Zealand is really supportive of immigrants and people resettling. So, Simon, you're continuing to bring the heat.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, we take in a good quota of refugees. The settling centre that we have out in South Auckland kind of looks a little bit like a military camp with, like, the barbed wire fences and stuff, but at least it's like a nice place where they come and they kind of slowly integrate into society, and it's not like so jarring. So we are kind of nice to our refugees, but the people that they want to almost use it as a scapegoat to further their grab for power, and yeah, they won't treat you very nice. And I'll just use this opportunity to remind you of the article that I used as a comparison from the United States, where the
CNN article
the FBI that created the fake online girl to talk to a depressed Muslim fella in the States, and telling him that they dreamed of committing jihad and that they wanted to commit jihad together, and this online fake person was trying to convince this kid to commit a terrorist attack, and it was the FBI. Like,
oh, hold on. So I wasn't listening. So this was the FBI trying to do entrapment?
Not entrapment. They wanted him to commit the act,
but they were faking being this girl.
Yeah,
that's entrapment.
Yeah, but what I'm telling you is they're not just trying to get this person to like try. They wanted this person to commit a terrorist attack. Attack.
Yeah. Otherwise, where does their funding come from?
There's so many memes online about people saying like, "Oh, my FBI agent watching me scroll TikTok and stuff like that." But the truth is not too far away from the meme. Like there is, you know, massive, not Silicon Valley offices, but you can imagine, just your average office that's full of people in suits sitting in front of computers, being, inorganic actors online. People inserting themselves into socialist movements and union movements and LGBT movements, and there are people from the alphabet agencies involved in all of these groups. I could find the article probably pretty quickly, but there was the planned hostage of the American senator, maybe, or I think it was, the lady. Do you remember that? There was a plot to kidnap a sitting
Oh, Senator
senator.
Warren, I think.
Yeah, I think, yeah, or something. Oh, no, I don't know if it was Warren. No, someone else, because it definitely wasn't Warren. She's too famous. But anyway, it ended up being that it was like 6 out of the 9 people involved in the plot were linked to the FBI. And it's like, at what point is the plot just an FBI plot and not just them, being undercover agents involved?
This is mind blowing. Simon, if you don't mind, I actually have. Let's stay with the terrorism theme.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting this would carry so far, but the bit that I have to add is very close to home indeed. Let me just scroll to the right place. And there we are. That's what happens when you're the stream captain and a reporter of sorts. So, earlier this week, I believe it was Thursday, there was a bomb scare in Christchurch.
What is it? Some kid capitalizing on the fear at the moment and being a bit of a copycat, or is this like a legit? I haven't read this article.
So,
I had
going
nothing
through
about this until I saw the link.
going through security, I understand the bag was stopped by aviation security. There was there was a device inside the bag that was good looking enough to look like a explosive device. I'm kind of like abbreviating here.
Yeah.
The entire Christchurch airport was evacuated, and some hours later, it was determined that actually the device wasn't explosive, but it was one that was made to look like it was. So it seems that domestic issues may not be over.
So it was made to look like a bomb.
It was a device or a thing that was made to convince people that it was a bomb. The New Zealand Defence Force explosive, the improvised explosive device experts were called out, and they later determined that it was not explosive.
Yeah. So it sounds like someone like trying to capitalize on the fear at the moment, be a bit of a copycat and just do a bit of a prank bomb scare,
Do you think that would be a
right?
prank though, or do you think it's along similar lines about what you're talking about in terms of instilling fear?
Yeah, it's whether somebody had see, the thing is, right? People, I don't want to sound too um off the deep end, but because of projects like MK Ultra in the United States, where they could literally convince people to do things that they normally wouldn't through mind control, It's whether, this person had this idea of their own free will to create to do this act and fake this event, or through them integrating special and social media or messages into this person's conscious or subconscious that they programmed him to do the act. Like that's me getting a little bit tinfoily, but if I was to take a cynical view and summarize it quickly, I'd just say somebody who's a little bit jaded in their life, thinking, "Oh, this might be funny. I'll just take a fake bomb to the airport and cause a bit of a hullabaloo." But that doesn't make sense to me. Why would somebody risk ruining their life with like this serious of a charge just for a gag? And if it's somebody willing
Mm.
to risk their life to commit some fake crime, they would commit a real crime.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same as you because if you look at the screen there, it says that this bag was actually checked in by a couple that was on that flight. So it obviously wasn't collected by them. So the story thickens.
Wait, what does that mean?
Well,
So they checked it in and it was all good,
yeah,
and
it was
then
obviously
somewhere in the
scanned as
machines of
yeah. It was
so somewhere in the bag sorting, it got found to have an explosive device in it.
yeah, and it had a legit bag tag on it and everything.
Yeah, is that just some terrified airport worker, who is plugged into social media and was totally terrified of another terrorist attack, saw like a Yui boom in somebody's bag and got scared and flicked the alarm, and then just to save face for the airport, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, actually there was something that looked like a bomb," instead of them just going, "Oh no, it's just one of our employees that just got a little bit scared."
Or a bit closer to home, did it just look like a wheelchair battery? Because you have no idea. You have no idea how often I get questioned about stuff in my bag. Because
Oh, dude.
the wheelchair batteries have to come out.
Mm.
So, oh mate, I can't even get a wheelchair through, let alone explosive device getting through. I don't know. I don't know how you do that, but the drama continues. But
Mm.
I still maintain that I don't believe that New Zealand has a terrorism problem. If
It's
it,
quite fitting to be talking about all of this on the 20-year anniversary of allegedly one of the biggest um, false flag events of all time. If we're talking about terrorist events that were of nefarious origins, used to expand police and government powers, 9/11 is the prime example of that, if you prescribe to that theory of truth.
today is technically the 11th for our friend stateside, so
Yeah.
mad respect to everybody over there. We realise what kind of a time it is for them. Rachel says Ting's machines for pain freak out airport security really bad.
Oh, Teams machines, those are cool. I used to get that treatment when I was doing physio. Basically, just like those pads you see on doctor shows, but they send electrical pulses through your muscles. Supposed to help, with
I've
pain.
seen
To
those.
yeah, it gets rid of confusing electronic signals in your muscles.
Like Christopher Reeve used those a lot after his accident to maintain muscle
Mm.
mass.
Yeah, and then they use stem cells, according to South Park. That's the only evidence of that I know. But they definitely made fun of him in South Park.
Simon, should we stay with sort of the theme of what you're talking about and go to your next story, and I can sort of wind us down with some lighter stories at the end there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't know if my
Um,
next one is light. You go next, I'll do my next one, and then I got a light one to end with. They'd say it like
Are
that.
we ending soon?
No.
Right.
I'm just
Because I'm putting a link in the chat, and I think just because it is the only reason I'm seeing it is because of 9/11. But I think it might be worthwhile looking at some point at the end of this time. But yeah, let's go to the next article, and I'll bring it up on my computer here. Here we go. Opposition questions international domestic use of vaccine passport. The one thing that really blows my mind about the whole situation that has happened over the course of the last few years since COVID was first brought into the current social discussion is this the constant moving of the goalposts and the new rules aspects of the whole thing that are immediately accepted as just part of the plan from the very beginning instead of new twists and turns. Like from the very beginning of last year, there have been people who have been a few months ahead of the curve but speculating on measures and mandated things that are going to come from these governments as a result of the pandemic, and people at that time would tell them, oh no, you're crazy, you're stupid, that's not going to happen, all we need to do is this. And then all of a sudden, in comes the vaccine boosters that people never, at the beginning, people who were pro the vaccine response never ever said, get vaccinated and sign up for the boosters until this is over. Their
Mm-hmm.
message was, get vaccinated and we're finished. But now it's, oh yeah, what do you mean? Of course you're going to need a booster. You get a different flu vaccine every year. But yeah, this is like, so I don't want to go too deep into that, but they just kind of summarizes the angle of this article that I wanted to touch on, which is we never signed up for vaccine passports at the start of this. It was something that people had used as some sort of potential threat that the government would use and say, don't give in to this sort of tyranny. They're going to introduce passports, and people are like, nah. But here it comes. They're socializing it. It's in place in other places like Israel. Israel is the perfect example of the country that you want to have a look to see what is happening in your country in the next 6 months to a year. Israel were the first people to start vaccinating. They were the first people to introduce vaccination status to enter malls and restaurants and all sorts of things. They are the people that pushed the next level the first, it seems, at the moment. But the issue with vaccine passports I have is that there is a public health angle of saying we should be able to acknowledge and verify people's vaccination status when going into public spaces because it is um, good to ensure that the people in that area don't get each other sick. But the the
The logic
the
doesn't
misalignment,
pan out though.
yeah, no, the misalignment of the values comes in when you say, oh yeah, no, of course, the vaccine is a choice, like you can choose to get it, but you can always choose to get it, but you're going to slowly and methodically remove the things that I can do until I am forced to make the choice that you want me to make. Like I won't. We've already started reducing the number of jobs that I could potentially do because I may not want to get vaccinated. Um, there's potentially what's going to line up here with the passport is the limitation on places I can go, businesses I can visit, services I can access. You hear okay, I don't want to say you hear stories. There are stories and news articles from the States and other places around the world where people are getting turned away from getting medical services because they are unvaccinated. I mean, people that can't get their babies delivered, can't get surgery, won't get their doctors to see them because they aren't vaccinated.
And,
And
and I
I
say
don't want
again,
anybody to be naive enough to know that that won't happen here.
the logic doesn't even line up though. So whenever officials are asked, will this stop you getting COVID? No.
No.
Will it stop you from transmitting COVID? No. So regardless of your status, I think lockdowns, it pains me to say this, lockdowns are here to stay, regardless of whether we had 100% vaccination or not.
Exactly. That's the other thing. It was a very recent stand up with Jacinda. She said, what is this magic number that people want from me to say before we can open things up? She wants 100% vaccination. That already ignores the medically fragile, the people who oppose vaccinations due to religious reasons. Some religions don't agree with that sort of medical intervention and believe it is, going against the will of God. And I should respect people to 100% believe that. I mean, our bodies are amazing, beautiful instruments that can do brilliant things. And you can live a very long, healthy life without any sort of Western medical intervention. And the myth of people living short lives years ago is BS. People used to live for ages, for thousands of years. But anyway, getting a bit off topic there.
No, you're right, Simon. So summarize the article for us. I won't scroll through and make people read it. But what's the upshot of what has been outlined by the minister here, Minister
Well,
Robson?
he is basic. Well, Minister, that's Minister Seymour,
Oh,
who's not
Seymour.
Minister
My
Seymour. Sorry,
apologies. Yeah.
sorry, he's not a minister. He's a party leader. He's basically allegedly. Well, we don't know how against it he is, but he says he's a libertarian, so you'd hope he would be. But he is opposing this, even just the proposition of a vaccine passport in domestic use. It's a bit worrisome that people are already just accepting that international travel is going to require vaccination status. It's just the bare minimum when that's not an issue at the moment. Like I'm pretty sure there's no country you can't get into unless you are vaccinated. But there's countries you should get vaccinated before you go to. Are there countries you have to prove vaccination? I mean, I'm probably making myself look ignorant.
There are countries where it's recommended, like Brazil, for example, where the water's a bit like dodgy. That's a country that I do know of. In some provinces of China, it's also recommended. Just because.
Every time you Google stuff, it just comes up COVID. But all I wanted to know is, are there countries where you have to have a vaccine before you enter?
While you're reading, Simon, I'll read the chat. Rachel says, I think it's a false security thing. Like the old pill versus condoms argument. Put a kid on the pill, she won't get pregnant. But they'll start to think she's safe, but might get an STI. And yes, natural health isn't being. I don't know what that word is.
I think talked about. I think she's
Talked
trying to say
about
talked
at
about.
all. Many old experiments on health and stress and immunity to any bugs. Sorry, a bit off topic. No, not off topic.
Oh yes, Rachel makes a great point there about stress, and bug and immunity. Right, there is a huge correlation to the level of fear and stress in your body, and the performance of your immune system.
Well, there you go.
If you are terribly frightened and scared, it like your brain magically makes different functions in your body work better in different states of mind. If you are in a flight or fright state of mind where your body needs to work to stay alive, you stop processing the shit in your stomach. Your intestines don't work fast. Your body just puts all of its focus into the things it needs to do to stay alive. So when you are frightened and fearful about a virus 24/7 that might kill you just by the door handle you touch, then your body is constantly disadvantaged and your immune system is not working as hard as it would if you were totally chilled back and in a good state of mind. It's a scientific fact. Stress kills. Stress kills in many different ways, but making your immune system shut off is one of them.
I'm just laughing, Simon, because you said that when you're scared and you're in fight or flight mode, your stomach stops processing stuff. I happen to know on good authority that when I'm scared, all I want to do is take a shit. But that's a story for another day. What has Rachel got for us here? Just checking.
Oh
Called
yeah,
it.
so that's like what that's like the octopus that uses its ink in Escape. It's your body. Like lots of animals will do that. They'll shit when they're frightened to get out the waste. But the stuff in your stomach that won't process.
Yeah. So what does she say? Cortisol breaks down. White cells pulled to fight stress. 100%, and she's laughing because now she knows that I shit my pants when I'm scared. Cool.
Bringing the saying to life, huh?
Hi.
Bringing the saying to life. You shit your pants scared.
Yep. Yeah. Well, we keep it real here, don't we, Simon? We keep it so real.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
No,
So I
you're
mean, I
okay.
don't know if there's anything further to kind of wrap up. But it's interesting that one of the comments in the article is from one of the co-leaders from Te Pāti Māori, where she says that if there was some sort of certificate or some way of verifying vaccination status, that because of the slow rates of vaccination for our Māori community, that it would be discrimination, which I tend to agree with. But I mean, it's not just based on the population, but the ethnicity, the discrimination. The discrimination is based on this medical experiment that you decide is not worth the risk at the moment.
Simon,
Like,
I won't go into the detail. We've talked about this offline, but I've already got experience with employers requesting to see people's vaccination cards. Now this is by request only, so they can only request it, but by law they can't require it. Just in terms of this whole passport thing, I would suggest to the people at home that this is kind of already happening because we have like these little vaccine appointment cards that you might have seen, Simon.
they don't have any sort of legal standpoint. Apparently, they aren't.
No.
No, there's nothing legal about them.
No, but I'm
It's
already
just
here.
administrative. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, already in the social sector, social services sector, I'm hearing lots about employers wanting to see these vaccination cards, and it's very disappointing from my perspective. At this point, I'm taking the stance that I'm very pro-choice. I'm not going to get in anybody's way if they want it. I think we've spoken about this on previous episodes, Simon. If you want it, go get it. More power to you. But don't grill me for what I'm trying to do for me and my family. Rachel says we are not even tracking rates of immunized by disabled community. Won't be long till people are doing fake vaccination appointment cards. Anyway, there's an untapped market. Lol.
I mean, depending who you talk to, there's plenty of those floating around in different circles. I've seen it in other countries, but yeah, I mean, if it becomes a thing here, I'm sure the same thing would work. But the thing I wanted to talk about, Jade, is
Sure.
about the people in social services that are requesting to see proof of vaccination before giving people their time. It's people who are plugged into that fair programming and are just so worried about making a mistake. They think that they're trying to do the right thing, and they're trying to. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's this weird subconscious psychological behavior that people have to want to please the master.
Mm.
Like if like it comes from schooling.
Mm.
You want to get the blessing of the headmaster. You want to get the praise of the people in authority. So if you're seen to be, being proactive and following the rules, to the T, it's those people that are plugged into that fear that use that as a way to get their reward.
It's kind of conditioned into kids at school, and like we've talked about school on a couple of episodes since we've brought the podcast back, Simon. But I'll just say again, whenever I see my daughter in her little uniform, the way they all march in unison, the way they all say good morning to the principal at the same time, it sends shivers down my spine, and it's easy to draw exactly what you're saying. And
Hmm.
Rachel says self-preservation and survival skills.
That's exactly it. Oh, I can't hear you, Jade.
Me?
Yeah, just for a second there, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
We good now?
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, just been quiet. Yeah.
Alright.
All sorts of
Yeah.
dramas going on behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah. You got people talking
It's
to
all
you left and
good.
right.
Yeah, it's all good.
The blind lady just lost the wasabi.
Okay. The blind lady lost the wasabi. You heard it here first, guys.
Careful, don't get on your fingers and put it in your eyes.
Sorry, you were saying something. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I've definitely lost what I was saying, so I have no idea where to go from here.
So yeah, self-preservation, not wanting to be left behind, following the narrative. Um, yeah,
I think it's just, yeah, that is a symptom of the real vicious. I mean, everyone calls it cancel culture, but people see examples of people getting torn down and removed from the in club for, um, you know, discretions that happened decades ago, or comments that were clearly meant for a specific audience where the context was super important, and getting, destroyed. And so people in those positions, like social services, don't want to risk any opportunity for someone to go to the public and say, this person was lax in their enforcement of the vaccine measures,
mm,
and they're an anti-vaxxer, and they hate people, they're a eugenicist, they want people to die. Like, as
yeah,
soon as you come out with any sort of skepticism or counter argument, the vitriol comes at you thick and fast. You get vilified so quick, saying you want poor people to die, you hate disabled people, you know, that kind of stuff is what turns people away from thinking for themselves and standing up for the values that they used to hold quite close to them.
thank you for bringing this light, Simon, because I was starting to feel like, and I've said this before, I was starting to feel like I was really alone in my view around, vaccination. As I say, my formal position is pro-choice. Do you want it?
Yeah,
I fully support you to get it.
look, dude, like if there's anybody who is who says, who backs up what they say, like I'm not gonna, fully um encourage people to check out what I do for a living, but I'm just saying that part of my job requires me to communicate with the public, and part of that is, making sure those people are informed about how to get themselves vaccinated. I do that weekly, so even if I personally don't think it's the right thing for myself, I do make it available for people who think it's the right option. So and nobody can call me an anti-vaxxer that's out there trying to undermine public health. I'm out there trying to protect my own self and make sure people make decisions with information that they should have available.
Yeah, really appreciate what you do, Simon, and I'm very much the same. Rachel says, not many people are taught to think from a young age. Most parents rely on command and control. Raising young people that think and question is hard work to raise, especially in a pandemic.
Such a good point. That is so true. Like you see it in like TV and stuff, but you see it in personal life as well. Kids go, Mom, Dad, why is so and so like this, or why do we have to do that? Because I said so. That's just the way. That's you know, you need to do this now. Why? Because I said you need to do this now. Like that sort of command and control, like what Rachel was saying, is what conditions kids to be drones and to accept orders from authority and not to question why things might be important. It's a lot harder for you to have, like proper discussions with your 4-year-old when you say, put on some proper clothes. It's cold outside. And then they say, why? And then you have to say, well, we're going to leave the house, you're going to get cold, and then you're going to complain and be miserable, and we're not coming back until tonight. So people don't do that, but you extrapolate that around every single interaction with your kid, and either the kid's going to turn out totally mentally damaged, or it's going to come out a drone because it listens to every single order from their parent or teacher.
As a parent myself, I can only agree with what Rachel was saying, except for the fact that I'm fortunate enough that I had some insight about bad parenting. I kind of alluded to this earlier in the show, Simon. So it was a real focus for me to instill in my daughter the idea that information is like power, and I wanted my daughter to be as high self-esteem as possible, and I wanted her to be informed as possible, so she had very little, if any, anxiety about the world. I always told her the truth, except for Santa. Santa's still a thing, and I kind of feel bad about the Santa thing, because it's still something I uphold. But I think a little bit of magic isn't so damaging, I don't think.
She's going to get to the point where she might be like half holding on to the idea just because you are too. She might get I feel like I feel like your daughter is so smart that she's at that point where she's kind of questioning it for herself, but she kind of leaves it out there because she knows that you're still in on it.
You're probably right. Just coming.
Just rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, rip the band. That'll need to happen. She's growing up. Rachel says, in saying that I broke yesterday. I'm struggling to see past my interface. Because I broke yesterday because I fucking said so. Wow, Mum, you okay? So she had a bit of a breakdown moment. You can appreciate that. You got to get control of your household.
Yeah, not every parent is the Buddha reincarnate with the patience of an angel. So, and trust me, I was an asshole at some times in my life. So I can definitely sympathize with parents who get short-tempered with their kids, because God, it must just be so infuriating to deal with that just 24/7. You can't give your kid back at the end of the day and say, "Oh, that was a tough day at work," but
yeah, don't have to deal with that kid now. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So for Rachel, Santa and fairies is still a thing.
Nice. The thing is, there is probably some dimension of truth to fairies. You never know. You never know how the ancient world used to be. Quite magical. We had dinosaurs, right? Like all those bones in the ground. We had these giant, massive creatures that, that walked the earth and ate trees. So why can't we have little flying, tiny people creature things? Why can't we have fairies?
Yeah, no, this is not a judgment or anything. Oh no. Rachel says I missed a comment here actually. Simon, sorry. I can't take credit for my parenting. Dad's a massive sales legend. Mum's an eco warrior. So I had a strange upbringing. Very similar to myself.
Yeah, I can't imagine the clashes of capitalism versus eco-communism views that I could imagine happened in that house. It's I wonder how your parents got along.
They do say opposites attract, Simon.
That's right, they do. Makes the spice of life that little bit extra tangy.
I can see how that would work. But Simon, just a couple of stories left on my end. A real quick one, if you wouldn't mind me. I say quick because there's not a lot of information. So this one is very close to home. For me in my hometown of Mandarewa. Unfortunately, there's been a 20-year-old woman found dead near the Homai School for the Blind. Police are still appealing for information about this woman as they're unable to ascertain any links that would lead them to who or what was responsible. Simon, were you aware of this story?
Nah, I honestly, my eyes widened and I had to close my jaw after I saw the article in the chat. I just couldn't, had no idea this was a thing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it real brief. Let me just give a quick scan. But yeah, it basically outlines that she was found yesterday. So this is very much a breaking story brought to you by Stuff New Zealand. Police are really keen to find out who's involved. They're only treating it as a possible homicide at this stage. They have very little to go on. Post-mortem is underway and the death has been treated as unexplained. So my thoughts go out to the woman's family when we eventually know who she is.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're asking if anyone out there is missing a family member. That is so horrible.
Yeah.
Is there any? There's no. Okay, I suppose
Nothing.
they said Is a post-mortem examination being underway, so they don't actually have the cause of death yet. But interesting to know if it's related to the railroad or train or a track or anything, or if that's just where she was found.
Well, I think they would sort of draw that conclusion pretty quickly. I feel like that would have been highlighted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
so she was
somehow
just
covertly.
found.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say close to home. That's where I was brought up, and I would view Mandarewa as a very tight knit community. So I'm surprised that information hasn't come to light yet.
And Rachel says, if it's real, heartbreaking. I'm still suspicious though. Every 2 days, something else to distract us. You're very right. The cycle of news is, extremely quick and will never stop.
Oh, Simon, can I just refer you to comments we're getting over on D Live?
Go for it.
Why not why? From D Live says that they are a public employee for the county government. Obviously, they don't need to say which county. No proof of status then, but you must have a COVID test weekly. Releasing biosamples is a privacy liability, in his view.
Oh, bro, totally. Even just all the contact tracing stuff, like putting your name and phone number and email and stuff down in every single business you go to, or all it is just a huge privacy breach. Like, never has the majority of society been signed up to record every single place they visit
Yep.
and have that information stored so poorly, like so poorly.
I've never seen it in New Zealand. I have like given my information to conferences, like when you sign in to say, yeah, I'm at the conference, but you would have given your information anyway, so you're only verifying that you're there. It's kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just one more from me, Simon, and then we can go. Or do you want to go to that link that you wanted to show now? How do you want to do that?
It's quite spicy.
Oh, yeah. Let's do yours, and then I might change up my plan. Yeah, let's do yours if
Are
you
you
want.
sure? I mean, this is because this is just something I found while we were live that I think is worth just a couple minutes looking at. But I don't want it to override anything you had planned.
Let me just think about it. No, let's do it. Let's do it because
Okay.
I probably won't do the NFT one, or maybe I will.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll just go for it. I think this is cool, and you'll appreciate it.
Whereabouts is it?
In Discord, it's a Twitter link.
Oh, I can't open there. Remember?
Oh, shivers. Okay.
Because we're live.
I mean, do you have anything else? Do you have anything else loaded?
Yeah, I'll do the NFT one, eh?
Yeah, we'll go there.
Yeah.
I think that's worth talking about.
So
NFTs are pretty sweet.
So let me just rack it up.
Rachel says you guys are fascinating. I don't know if that's like
is that
in
a
good
compliment
way or a bad way? Yeah.
So I found a source, not that you need one, because there's a lot of information about this online. So basically, guys, there'll be a link to this after the show, so you can do your own research. NFTs are basically a way that's come out to track the ownership of art and other digital assets on the blockchain. Yep. So this article outlines that pieces of art no bigger than probably a post-it note, Simon, typically, are going for
the pixel size.
Are going for millions of dollars. And this article breaks down why this might be happening. And like with all things that used to be popular, like you see here a Pokemon card, a UEFA League card, and other sorts of things, the reason why they're popular is just because of how collectible they are. There's no real rhyme or reason why people would spend money on bits of cardboard like trading cards.
Yeah, well, scarcity and perceived value, right? Some pieces of cardboard with a picture of a footballer or a Pokemon on them have different levels of scarcity, and then people put perceived levels of value on them and then trade it. And that's how markets are formed.
I don't want to talk across purposes, but I will just say, and I happen to know this, that Logan Paul bought a single Charizard first edition for $250,000 US. So this kind of speaks to the opportunity for NFTs. Anyway, back to
I would love to spin off. I'm going to find a spin-off article to accompany this topic. You continue.
Fantastic. And just drop it in my Facebook DM.
Yes.
Please. So these things, these are digital pieces of art, and for the people at home, I don't actually know if this is going to work with the contrast of my screen, but I happen to be stupid enough to be buying these things. Thank you, I was going to say. So one of the series that I'm involved in right now is one called Crunchy Cows, and I was just waiting for Hannah to turn on the light because it's going to affect the contrast. There we are. Did I blind you? Did I blind you, Simon?
Flashbang.
Yep. So, okay. Aiden, what's going on, man? Thanks for being in the chat. So here's one that I've bought. And this is a series called, let me try and get the angle decently. So this
look at you go.
This is a Crunchy Cow, and the app that I'm showing it on is, actually at home they can't see it. Wrong view. There. So that's that. And why did I buy this?
Yeah, why did you buy that?
I have no idea. Obviously, spending too much time in lockdown. Anyway, the article goes on to say that what stops people from copying the digital art? Nothing.
Yeah.
As with all art.
Absolutely nothing.
Nope. But the point is that there's a digital record of you being the legitimized owner of this piece of art, and for people interested in NFTs, that's what gives it the intrinsic value.
Mm-hmm. As long as enough people buy into the fact that this means something, then gives it value. Like the fiat currency we currently use, like the gold and silver that currently are traded as precious metals. As long as enough people consider them to have some value, then you can trade and make money off them as you please.
And I'm not gonna lie, there's like this unspoken thing in the community around there being a little bit of hope that your digital asset is going to go up in value.
Yes.
I'm not gonna lie, there is a factor, but I'm definitely not in NFTs as an investment. I literally got in just so that I could say that I was in and I could complete a purchase and I knew what I was doing. If I was being really real with the people at home, I did it because it was research for the work that I do here. Can I blame it on you, Simon?
Yeah, go for it. The reason you purchased an NFT. Do I get a stake in it though? Or?
Oh, here we go. Let me just go get that link of yours. Right there.
And now I'm trying to share the other one I wanted to, but now my Facebook is being a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, got one here.
But you need the second. Here we go. It won't let me share. Oh, okay, it did.
I was gonna say, are we gonna get our first ever blocked link? You know, I've been waiting for one of those.
Yeah, not quite that scandalous, but I got a couple of those.
Okay.
Yeah. Bring it up. Come on, let's go talk about Hunter Biden's art.
So wait, before we move on, what are your reflections on NFTs? Do you have any thoughts about it at all, or do you think it's like a waste of time?
Oh, well, it's the whole reason I've got this other article I want you to open in a second is my thoughts on NFT, and I'm going to make a nice little comparison to this fine gentleman.
Just read the headline. Oh, jeez, this is going to
hurt. So, you were talking about, one of the potential uses of NFTs. and you were, and it was making you skeptical of the idea, and you said that it was because NFTs looked like a use for money laundering. And I said, what, you mean like normal high-end art? Because it has been a well-established fact and known by many people that high-value art is a way for people to launder their money. Because one, what you can do is you can buy a bunch of drugs from people, and instead of just giving them cash for those drugs, they can create a picture that they value at about $4 million, and then you can pay your friend that $4 million for the piece of art, and then you get the drugs and they get the money. And then what you can also do as a very wealthy person is, instead of paying millions of dollars in income tax, you can get your friend to do a piece of art and then value it at $5 million, and then donate that piece of art to a charity, and then you can write off $5 million worth of income tax. Like, high value art exists purely as a vehicle to shift money, and for many different reasons. And it's the same thing that's happening in NFTs. That's why those pictures suddenly skyrocket in value.
Well,
And moving on to
thank
that, and
you,
let's
thank you for making sense and also bursting my bubble at the same time.
if you scroll down to the last little paragraph between this image and then the second image, there's a piece of information I only kind of want to focus on. There we go, stop. It says Hunter Biden should cancel his art sale because he knows the prices are based on his dad's job. Shame on him if he doesn't ask Hunter to stop. If that fails, he should ask that the names of buyers be released and pledge to notify us if any buyer ever meets with admin officials. There's very fair concerns by whoever this tweeted this, saying Hunter Biden is basically selling stupid. Like, this guy didn't go to art school, isn't some famous artist. He's only just started making paintings in the last few months. This guy is publicly admitted to being a crack smoker. He started dating his dead brother's widow, wanted to fuck his niece, and has admitted to smoking crack, and that's filmed, and has been involved in dodgy deals with meeting or arranging meetings between, middle European and Middle Eastern businessmen and his father. And so this person's raised a very good point. This guy is making art so that people can pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions, for his piece of art, and then he can go and meet them and say, "Oh, thank you very much for buying my art. Or, by the way, here's my dad, Joe. He just so happened to be here while you come and pick this piece of art. I'm sure you might want to have a yarn with him." And that's pretty much what's happening.
So
It's just
illegal.
it just happens.
So
It just
illegal.
happens over there. There's a facade of legality wrapped around it, and there's enough people in powerful positions for nobody to look at it through any other veil than the fake veneer they need to look at it, so that there is the public discourse of him being an artist and people buying his art.
No, point taken, Simon. And actually, I was aware of this story, and you've definitely brought me back down to earth in terms of NFTs. I still say, though, hand on heart, it's about the technology for me and the opportunities of the blockchain. Because
Absolutely, you could.
whenever we say blockchain, people often think of the cryptocurrency, but it's not just about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, blockchain's a philosophy. It's a what would you call an engineering principle, where data is verified by its place in the whole, so that you have a long string of possible positions to be a part of one string, and each is verified by its place either side. And you can apply that to lots of different purposes. Like, I was thinking, and lots of people have had the same thought with video games like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, where they are trading value on cards. You could create digital versions of that based on an NFT blockchain. and then you have a finite number of interacting, entities, and with the value that can change over time because there's a specific number of pieces involved.
Would your tweet link to this art thing, or is this different again?
No, this is just something that I found on my incredibly diverse Twitter feed, and because it's 9/11 in the States, this is just something that somebody decided to post. But click on the image, and then I'll read out the text
Sure
from there.
thing.
So this is about a gentleman named Larry Silverstein. So Larry Silverstein is a businessman who is the founder and owner of Silverstein Properties. On April 26, 2001, he finalized a negotiated bid to lease purchase the World Trade Center. The bid was accepted on July 24th, 2001, just 49 days before September 11th. Silverstein has said in interviews that he usually spent his mornings and breakfast meetings at the top of the North Tower. However, on the morning of September 11th, his wife insisted he attend a medical appointment, which resulted in him avoiding almost certain death. His son, Roger, was in the parking garage of the original W-27 when the first plane hit. And his daughter, Lisa, was turned away by police farther uptown. Both were working for their father and were fortunate enough to have their lives spared as well. The insurance policies for the destroyed buildings had a collective face of about $3.55 billion. However, Silverstein sought to collect double the face amount, $7 billion, on the basis that the two separate airplane strikes into two separate buildings constituted two separate attacks within the meaning of the insurance policies. The insurance companies opposed the view and matter went to court. It was concluded that the total potential payout was capped at $4.577 billion. Silverstein continued to seek more damage compensation in the years following the verdict. So this is a guy who bought the building 49 days before it happened and then cashed out on the insurance policy after a terrorist attack. Silverstein was very close with friends with then Israeli Prime Minister and current Prime Minister, isn't he, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's reportedly called Silverstein every Sunday afternoon, New York time. Their friendship began when Netanyahu served as the Israeli ambassador to the UN a few years after the attacks occurred. Netanyahu claimed that the 9/11 attacks had been good for Israel. We are benefiting from one thing, and that is the attack on the Twin Towers and Pentagon and the American struggle in Iraq. Israeli newspaper Mariv quoted the former prime minister saying, he reportedly added that these events swung American public opinion in our favor. It's very interesting about the person who was the current owner of the World Trade Center during the attacks.
That is deep. That is deep, and I think I heard on the news somewhere, and it would make a lot of sense, that it's 20 years?
It's 20 years. Now,
Yeah.
the one thing that I love to highlight about 9/11 is that on 9/10, there was a news story that was dominating the public sphere of American news all day. The Pentagon came out and said, we have been audited by the IRS, and there is $3 trillion missing. This is on the 10th of September 2001. The Pentagon comes out and says, we don't know where $3 trillion is gone. In our operational budget in the last few of however long, they said, we can't account for $3 trillion. And every news agency across the country was going, oh my God, the Pentagon, they've lost $3 trillion of taxpayer dollars. What is going on? And then what happens the next day? Next minute, two towers fall down and it's never mentioned again. And then, in the last year or so, the Pentagon have come out and said, we're about to conduct the first ever Pentagon audit. And people have been like, what do you mean the first Pentagon audit? You had one right before 9/11, but that's what they've been saying. They're saying the Pentagon's about to have its first ever full comprehensive audit.
That is mind blowing. How do you even respond to that? Do you know how many people would not know what you just said, though?
Lots of people.
And as Rachel says, how are we not rich when you're this smart, Simon?
It's hard to capitalize off the knowledge I know because everybody thinks you're crazy. Let me
Nah.
just find some. I've liked some banger tweets today. This one I just scrolled past here. George Bush on his 9/11 commemoration speech today, comparing domestic terrorists to Islamist terrorists, saying that they are children of the same foul spirit and it is our continuing duty to confront them. So he was comparing U.S. domestic terrorists
I can't do
at
it,
a
man.
9/11 commemoration event.
I can't do it.
Mm-hmm. No,
Isn't there
anything
like a
spicy to bring
UN
up.
convention that you do not surveil your own citizens? Like, isn't that a thing?
Yeah, it's like a human right to like unimpeded, like I
Access
can't
to
remember what it
society.
is. Yeah, yeah, it's like free movement about society, wherever it is. Yeah.
9/11. I remember it. I think I was getting ready for school or something, and it was on the news, and I was like, "Oh, that seems weird. Why would a guy drive his plane into the building like that?" I thought it was a freak accident.
Mm.
I remember watching the news in the morning, being like, "Why would you do that, bro? Like, how did you miss that turn?"
Mm.
I didn't even
There's
know.
like some.
Sorry.
I was gonna say there's some really weird things about the video footage from George Bush, like in the little kid's classroom when he gets told about the event. But like part of the class that he was involved in, the teacher was getting the kids to repeat these words, and there's this video of these kids saying like kite, hit, steal, must, and it's like some of those words are like them saying that you know kite, which is kind of like a Jewish slur if you change the T to a K, hit, steal, must, like must hit steal, and then like the words that the teacher was getting them to sound out sounded like it was related to. If you were a very open-minded individual, you would maybe be convinced that some of those words were part of the whole thing that went on that day. Like it's really weird to check it out.
Yeah, I have to admit, like, 9/11 is not something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, but obviously the entire world's framing of terrorism was forever shaped by those events, so I do acknowledge that, and I acknowledge that innocent American lives and not even American lives, innocent lives were impacted by that event, but just, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it an
See,
inside job?
yeah. I was gonna say mainly it was innocent lives lost on that day. Like just like that story said about the Silverstein guy who owned the World Trade Centers for less than a few months, who his wife warned him to avoid his normal routine and to stay away from the tower. Like executives and all businesses on every level of that building, like they weren't there. People who were there every day or almost every day weren't there. Like it has just been one of the things that nobody can explain is that all of these people that should have been there weren't there.
Yeah. And of course my sincere condolences go out to, we have a lot of people watching this podcast, Simon, that live stateside, so really want to acknowledge them if they were impacted or had family members that were impacted. But yeah, you raised some really good points that I honestly don't know how to respond to because it seems like such a mind job.
It is. I mean, it purposely is built like that to kind of not be easy to decipher, to make you always question yourself. Like, yeah, you know, they say the truth is stranger than fiction, and most of the time it is, man. Just the way that we've been programmed. Like, without getting too deep into it at this stage in the live stream, but I mean, and growing up as a kid, all of the media you consume makes you believe that magic is like a fairy tale, it's not real, and that, you know, it's just something to laugh at. But there are the most powerful people in the world that wholeheartedly believe in and engage in dark black magic practices and rituals. Like, if everyone knows about the Freemasons, right, and the Illuminati and stuff like that. If those people are in power like people say they are, those people practice black magic rituals and do all sorts of weird, funny things.
On a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you want people to take away from this 9/11 thing? What would be your take this home and smoke it statement?
That people in power would do a lot of harm to their own people to remain in power, and I would mind just taking a short break before I return and just visit the men's room.
That's fine. Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Simon. The people in power will do anything to stay in power. I just want to check back in with the chat as well if you've got any opinions about this. As I've said before, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with 9/11. I've seen a lot of movies, read a lot of articles, seeing a lot of mind-blowing photo evidence, but not spend a lot of time on it. So if you have a perspective, would love to be hearing that from you. Oh, that was quick. World record, mate. Putting his mic back on. God, take your hat.
It's quite a professional affair when you've got to put your microphone back on your lapel. But yeah, no. What? Oh, sorry, Jade. You were saying something really smart while I was just outside. What were you saying?
I've seen a lot of evidence, read a lot of things. You know, it's been 20 years. Video footage, photographic evidence, things like that. I've spent time with it, but I honestly haven't put a lot of mental capacity. Rachel said the thing that I was thinking. But I know exactly what it was. He went freehand. He went like this, up on the toilet bowl, and it was all good.
Yeah, I know. I use the barbecue tongs to steer, so that it was sanitary.
I actually wasn't going to bring that up. Rachel, you did him dirty on that one.
Literally didn't.
Yeah. So you were saying something?
I was going to say, the Pentagon, right? So allegedly a plane struck the Pentagon on 9/11. If anybody has seen the photo, of the impact zone at the Pentagon.
Where's the plane?
You tell me that looks like any sort of site where a plane has come in at a relatively flat angle and crashed into the side of a building. and that just so conveniently happened to be the place at the Pentagon where all of their accounting audit information and data was being held. Right? So remember I
Is
was
that a
talking
tinfoil
about
hat thing though, or is that a real thing? It
that's
was
a real thing.
the hole was literally in the department.
Yes.
That is really interesting, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's part of how they could kind of get the audit to go away. They're like, oh, like, it's all gone.
You're actually giving me a headache, son.
I'm sorry.
I've never heard these things. My brain is absolutely frying hearing this stuff.
Like, the I'm looking at a picture of the Pentagon, and it's like a small square section of the building, and the roof is caved in on a diagonal angle, and it's about what you'd consider 5 windows long. So it's it's a couple classrooms in length maybe.
Are
And
you gonna send
it's
this?
a
Are you gonna send this to me so I can show the people at home?
I mean, I just Google searched
Oh,
Pentagon 9/11 impact site.
okay.
I don't know,
Let me get that.
but show me a domestic plane that can fit in that space. And there's no plane debris bits. Like, gosh, I mean, that is so narrow.
And my thing is there a plane? Because someone pointed that out to me that there was actually no plane.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say is that there's no evidence of any sort from these pictures that makes it look like a plane hit that building.
Oh, the site I'm on is actually real shit. PBS, they'll be reliable, won't they?
Yeah, why not?
Nah, apparently you have to subscribe. Oh, okay, here's a view you probably weren't expecting, Simon. Oh, I think we might be in the way. I can turn us off if you want. Well, look at that.
So you're telling me a plane flew into the side of the building and made that happen? What that looks like is a bunch of charges on one side of the building were blown and dropped the building so that the roof goes that.
Yeah.
You know, you blow, so it just goes.
That's what we call in New Zealand a fucking liar, I think.
Yeah. I was just about to drink some of my cold coffee rather than my rum and coke.
Well, Simon, I think this is a good place to wrap that subject up. I mean, we could go on all day. This is not me cutting you off. But
No, I mean, there's so many aspects of that story. Like, if anybody's listening to this and wants to just look at something up for fun in their own time, look up the 6 dancing Arabs of New York from 9/11 and just look into that.
Nice. But right about now, I'm gonna sort of take the podcast to quite a somber place, if you don't mind me saying. So,
I think that's appropriate.
For people here in New Zealand and also part of the Twitch community as well, will be very familiar with Michael Pullman, who has featured on my streams many a time. Many a time. Michael was well known for his controversial views in the disability sector. He was not afraid of expressing himself at any point in time. He really challenged my thinking about the long-standing disability narrative. He was not afraid of crunchy conversations. He was not afraid of saying the things that other people were afraid to say. And for a time, my organization, Epic Studios, we were supporting Michael with the development of his brand, and it was a real privilege to do that with him. Due to various reasons, Mike took it upon himself to decide on a different artistic direction, so I don't want to delude anybody at home. We did stop working together after a time, but we always had a very mutual respect for each other in terms of the content that we produced and our respective brands, if you want to call it that. A subject that I'm not so familiar with is rugby. Mike was a huge fan of rugby and well known to the rugby journalism community. Simon, you know a bit more about rugby than I would.
I've played a few games. It almost ruined my legs permanently, but that was more of a singular incident in the sport itself. But yeah, no, it's great. Love it. Part of New Zealand history.
So Michael has been acknowledged from various outlets, including the Disability Rights Commissioner Paula Tesoriero.
I did just see that, yeah.
Yeah. As well as mentions from organisations like Deaf Aotearoa and Parent to Parent, which Michael used his sort of writing ability and journalism capacity to support those organisations. I will say this, it's a bit of a not very well put together monologue, but Michael was also commissioned by me to write for pieces of content that I did, and one show in particular was the 2018 High Level Design Announcement Breakdown, Simon.
Okay.
Over 2 hours of live streaming, and Michael wrote my keynotes for that, so really appreciate what he was able to do for me there. And I take it you might want to say a few words.
I don't have a mic, but can people hear
You
me?
have a mic.
Yeah, no, I can hear you great. So I wish you can't
I
hear
don't
me though.
necessarily want to say a few words, but I think it's definitely time that, you know, I really respected Mike, and he was a great man. And thank you very much. He was taken from us too early, and I really appreciate what he was able to do with Epic Studios, and who he was, and what we were able, and what he produced and did. And it's great to see that people are appreciating the work that he did.
Yeah, it's really good.
He would be very, very grateful that people are paying him the right respects.
Right about now, I just wanna. Did you want to say a few words, Simon? You've interacted with Michael a couple of times, I understand.
I mean, yeah, so I've spoken to him a bunch of times through work, just kind of directly, and he's always been super respectful. And yeah, like you said, he's never been afraid of interesting conversations. Just through my work, we get exposed to interactions where people want to push the boundaries for their own health outcomes. And I am always in favor of doing what I can to investigate a situation on the fringes of the boundaries that result in somebody getting the best outcome for themselves. And so for people like Michael, it is a joy to interact with them because they are so willingly ready to work at those fringes because that's where progress is made. You know, like there are some people who operate quite well within the parameters of what government resources just dictate. But I really also enjoy working with people who are there to try and inflict change on the system by operating outside the norm, and he was one of them. And so I always appreciated talking to him about things that potentially could shift the narrative or shift the window of what is considered acceptable. And so, like, I think it's been said in lots of places, but there's definitely a gap in the community in that area since his passing.
Just a couple of words for me before I hand over to Simon for final thoughts. I think I do want to say I was thinking about not saying this, but Michael always considered himself to be a little bit of an outsider, a bit unwelcome in the New Zealand disability social sphere. I think what I realized this before, but hopefully Michael, in his own way, whatever you believe in, can realize this now. He touched the lives of many thousands of New Zealanders. I mean, he got formal acknowledgement from a New Zealand rugby club. You know, the like upstanding New Zealanders that we all respect have come out and acknowledged the hard work and dedication that Michael had, not only to disability but also sport as well.
That's right.
So just in wrapping, I hope that Michael doesn't feel like an outsider anymore, wherever he is.
Respect.
And with that, Simon, I'll hand over to you for final thoughts on the show overall.
Yeah, I mean, so my final thoughts. Firstly, repping the New Zealand baseball jersey that I won at a silent auction, just to recognise his commitment to New Zealand journalism, especially in the sporting world. But I think my final thoughts, just to relate to what you were just saying about Michael and his feeling of being an outsider. I have one thing to say first, and that is don't retreat on your values for the price of being accepted in the mainstream or the greater good of what is considered okay in your personal or in your business life, whatever it may be, because you might just be ahead of the curve and you might have the public backing of everybody within a few years once they catch up to you. So don't ever relinquish any part of yourself that you believe is true to you for the sake of being accepted by anyone else. And so with Michael feeling like he might have been an outsider, that is only in his pursuit of being included into the status quo. But there is a valuable market of people out there that will value you for who you are as an individual, that would be gutted if you relinquish some of who you are and some of who you cherish. So don't ever sacrifice part of your soul and who you are just for some access or some level of acceptance, because it will come to you if you stay true to yourself.
Simon, I couldn't have said it better myself, and yeah, you know, I knew this part of the show was coming, and this is probably one of the harder shows that I've done, and I realize we're only a small thing, but even so, this has been really difficult because I watched Michael's passion for the community generally. He didn't care who you were. He just wanted the best for everyone, and there's a lot of people that say that. But Michael really meant it. So just in me wrapping, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. If you want to catch more of my content, one really cool place that I've just had sorted out for me is please go to jadefarrow.com/YouTube to be taken directly to the YouTube channel. There you'll find a video on demand copy of this podcast. This podcast is also available wherever good podcasts are, completely syndicated all over the world. Follow all the links. You'll get links to the different articles that we've talked about on the show here today. But I'm going to end the stream a little bit differently, and I purposely didn't announce this in the Go Live post because just the complexities of people maybe referring to us as clickbait. I have a tremendously special clip to share with you this afternoon. This is a promotional piece that my organization Epic Studios did with Michael, and I alluded to this before. There were creative decisions made that lead to this video not being released on his channel. I followed up with his partner Jess to ask if we could share this video as a tribute to Michael. She's seen it, she's cleared it, she's approved it. So it's my absolute privilege to share that with you now. But as I always say, thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. And Simon?
Please stay awesome, and we'll see you all in the next one.
And for the final word, I'm going to hand it over to Mike.
My name is Michael Pullman. I have a passion for connecting with people, and I crave a better world for everyone, regardless of where they stand in life. As a kid, I was raised to work hard, to believe in myself, but also to treat life with respect. I've been disabled for 26 years, and yes, it's been hard at times, but I sort of see every day as an opportunity, and I really do feel like I live life on borrowed time. People's individuality is really important. It's not about being better or more popular. It's about our own internal messaging and the energy we feel within ourselves. It's crucial that this individuality is recognised, and as a community, we need to take the time to listen to people and really hear their stories. The reason why I am a public speaker is to encourage people to dream big, just like I do. Your goal is not out of reach. Your voice matters, and collectively we can work together to make this world a better place for everybody. We start making that world better by having conversations with people. My name is Michael Pullman, and I'd love to talk with you